Hello and welcome back to the sixth episode? I believe it was the sixth episode of Reassembly, the Helios faction. And we have achieved the 8000p ship, the 8000 power ship. Oh yes. Um, this is again a bit of a modification of the previous design. It is a lot more similar like those kinds of ships, not like a spinner ship or anything like that. Um, and this ship features more lasers than I can count. I went a little bit overboard with those because I had been considering what to do with the ship, and I had a general shape in mind, especially after designing the core bits. And basically, I just kept having too much P. I kept having too much P. I kept needing to expand because what's the point of having 8000p available if you're not going to use them? So I've been building by segment every little detail of the ship, only to in the end have this monster pop out of it. And it is not only a monster that is having more lasers than I can count, which basically means that it eradicates everything that I aim at. But it is also surprisingly nimble. I never made a ship this big that is this nimble. And that is very much because of the Helios again. It is like, I have too much P. Well, okay, let's put on more thrusters. More thrusters, more thrusters, more thrusters, more thrusters. And eventually, you become coated in the bloody stuff. It is everywhere, from near the core to the outside rims. It is everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. So this thing, this thing is actually surprisingly quick, despite its gigantic size. It has a few front-mounted lances, which are fun if you actually come in close and to actually dig into your enemy. But for the most part, we are reliant on the ray cannons, which are our primary source of damage, along with a few arms of Helios. Now, I had considered to actually use Arms of Helios as the primary weapon for this one. Last time we used the Eye of Helios. And the Arm of Helios is certainly somewhat of a different kind of weapon. It is much more closely related to the Ray Cannon. But when I was considering to use it, I was looking at its energy cost, which is 100, meaning that we will need to use hearts to supply them. It has a discharge damage of almost 2000, and the ray cannon has 600. It has a range of 900, which is rather small, really, rather small. Whereas the ray cannons have well over 2000. Uh, the ray cannons only use 5 energy per discharge, and they cost 50p and the armor Helios cost 250p. So, with a little bit of consideration, and anyone that knows a little bit of math will know that in practice, the ray cannon is simply much more effective. Five ray cannons, which is the cost equivalent of one arm of Helios, will always win against an arm of Helios. So there is really not a lot of point to using many of arms of Helios. But I figured that since they are a super weapon, since they do have a whole lot of power, especially in those closer ranges, I figured I should at least feature them. So you all have seen the use of the arms and the eyes, which are both the super weapons of the Helios faction. This ship features 4 tumors, nothing very special. It is all about lasers with this one. Uh, and yeah. It is also a mothership. It is very, very suited as a mothership. It has 2 wombs, which basically was because I don't want to figure out a way to get a single one in the middle, because there is otherwise not a whole lot of use to having 2 wombs, apart from obviously its symmetry. Um, it has 4 hearts, and it has a good amount of R storage. So let's see this baby in action. It is pretty much a light show already the moment you simply start moving around because of all its thrusters, because it has so many of them. It is laden with them. Absolutely. Um, And when we use our primary weapons, which are basically all the burst lasers and the eyes of or the arms of Helios, we get this, which is rather satisfying, considering how quickly it burrows into those asteroids, how quickly it basically destroys everything, and that is not even including all the sentinels we have and the spears we have included. Spears mostly for close range defenses, the sentinels for long range defenses. But yeah, you can see how this ship cuts through everything very quickly. And those tumors, I figured those would just be fun to feature. I really don't know why I actually put them on there, but they are fun to see those torpedoes occasionally popping out. And yeah, you can see this ship is very quick indeed. It is very nimble. It has good thrusters on all directions. Obviously, the most on the back, or aimed towards the back at least. So that means that we have a lot of speed going forward, which is actually quite alright considering that we use lasers, so momentum isn't much an issue. In fact, we can use it to our advantage by actually coming in very close and very quickly eradicating everything that we approach. Come on, don't get stuck. There we go. So there you go. Very little that actually stands in our way. Now you might be asking why I abandoned the Eyes of Helios. Because the Eyes were our long-range weapon, because they were arguably the most powerful weapon in our faction. And that is simply due to the fact that the Arms of Helios are very slow in use. And that wouldn't be such a big issue were it not that in the end their damage suffers so greatly from it that it's really not worth it to use those over the normal burst lasers, over also the Arms of Helios. So that is why I made that switch. That is why I'm basically now switching to the strongest weapon that the Helios faction has to offer, which are simply the burst lasers. A little bit of an anticlimactic conclusion, really, but those are simply turn out to be the strongest in my experience. I might be wrong on that, but it's the way I experience it, and it's my game, so yeah. If you disagree with me, go and play the game yourself. But yeah. So I've already tried a few things with this ship. I've already tried and fight a couple of different factions. The farmer faction, for example, I've tried fighting a few crystallines, and so far there is very little that can stand in our way. Actually, thus far I haven't died a single time with this ship. So now, of course, I haven't tested it too much because that would ruin the footage and all, but. In the tests that I did too, derp, it definitely turned out to be very powerful, very much appearing to be unstoppable. Of course, that's going to be far from the truth and reality, but it definitely seems to be the case thus far. Again, I think that the biggest weakness of the ship would be to use plasma cannons against it. Projectiles that cannot be deflected with the lasers, because those would simply go through everything. Those would actually be able to hit us without any issues. Of course, those are also one of the hardest weapons to aim, so the likelihood that they will hit us is also one of the smallest. So this is quite a dangerous ship to encounter. Pretty much a fast speed, a high speed laser drill just floating around in space, destroying everything that it comes across. So yeah, that's basically all there is to say. Goodbye everybody, we're done with Reassembly. We found the most powerful ship in the game. No, but I am actually curious to see if there is a faction that we can come across that is actually able to destroy this ship. Because even in multiple numbers thus far, nothing has been able to stand in our way. Oh, fun fact actually, I've been destroying these guys already, but I probably should tell you. These guys are called the Borg. They are a non-playable faction. They have a white and light blue color scheme, um, and they basically just are all designed out of blocks. It's all blocky. It's no curves, no nothing. Basically the exact opposite of the Helios faction. And these are the Flesh. We haven't actually come across the Flesh yet. That is actually I'm actually glad that we come across those. Because the Flesh, I've tried them, and when I first installed the mod, it was very, very highly rated. And it slowly degraded a bit, and the more I play the game with them, I can see why they are slowly losing in rating. Because although it is has very cool features that very cool ideas that it uses, it really doesn't work out that way. It is mostly just a plasma cannon based faction with the addition of melee weapons and a few curiosities, but nothing really to write home about, so to speak. They do use a lot of drones and they use them effectively, but yeah, if that's all you've got, then not really going to make it. Then again, we are currently just kicking ass with only using lasers, so that is also something. But maybe that's simply because lasers are so reliable, whereas drones and other projectiles are definitely not. There's always a little bit of hoping that they will actually inflict the damage you want them to. Contestants. These guys used to bugger us. Real annoying guys, and now there really is nothing left of them. Nothing that can stand in the way. So let's make another copy of ourselves, because apparently we're not powerful enough. No, I really don't have an idea. Oh, it's called the Solar Storm, by the way. I figured that was rather appropriate, considering we're the Helios faction. We currently use a whole ton of lasers, and well, it is quite a barrage indeed. We haven't actually tried making a proper fleet yet, so maybe that's something fun to do for this episode. One moment, please. Yep, there we go. Just had to open up the window there for OBS, because otherwise I will have no clue how long I have been recording, and that would mean that you would either end up with an episode that would last for just a few minutes, or an episode that would last for 3 hours. Well, probably not literally, but knowing myself, it could end up like that. When I started off, I was actually trying to keep things around 20 minutes, but that really went down the drain quite quickly. So the main gameplay part that I do right now, for example, is usually still rather around 30 minutes, quite stable. Except for the first few episodes I did with the Tinkerel. I still love this design. I still love this this really strange ass ship that somebody made that is occasionally popping up in the contestants area. Just it is not even a ship. It is a station really, and it just has a whole ton of, I believe it is lasers or tiny plasma cannons that are all lined up like that. Not really a threat, but it just looks really funny. So yeah, now we've got 2 of our team, 2 Solar Storms, just rolling around, destroying everything in our path. Whoa, we've actually traveled quite a distance. Maybe we should go back to the Crystalline factions and the Centanos factions, because generally those are the strongest ones you can encounter. So if we want to actually come across someone that can challenge us, we probably should go into that direction. I do think it is somewhat of a disappointment that only the Crystalline and the Sentinel faction really are properly made for use with AI. They are the only factions that really have those big ass ships that can destroy you even when you are like at an 8,000 piece ship. Where at moments you would simply want to use a fleet simply because they use a fleet and they simply match you quite well. Which is something that you don't see with other factions. It's somewhat of a disappointment, really. So I don't know. I actually haven't seen many updates from Reassembly, official updates that is. So I don't know. Maybe they'll never come even. But I would like to see, for example, a really big Tinkerel ship that would just kick ass like our own designs would do. Then again, we of course have come across a few of our own designs with the Sentinel faction with those triangles. I believe they were called slicers. Those still are very much... I think those would actually be able to properly attack us. That is, of course, if we would remain immobile, which we, of course, won't be doing, because we are quite a mobile ship, as I said before. It would be a bit of a disappointment to not use all the abilities we have. And mobility is simply a part of that. But who knows, maybe they'll get the jump on us. They're actually able to destroy us regardless. A lot of shields. That took a little bit longer than I expected it to. A little bit longer than last time as well. Oh well. Anyway, let's go down. There are a lot of farmers here. Gee. It's uncommon to see so many closed up together like this. Usually they are a bit more scattered. Goes for most factions, really. But oh well, just means that we'll have more fun destroying them. A little disadvantage actually of our mobility, a curious fact, is the fact that because we're so mobile, and other ships probably aren't always this mobile, we can actually very easily abandon our own fleet, which is not very desirable. It basically means that we would end up just being alone out here with only our own kind of ships. Just roaming around. Simply because those other guys simply wouldn't be able to keep up. Ooh, a research center. And that was the research center. The Reds are just cannon fodder at this point. I do wonder how well the AI controls our ship actually, so I think I'll let him engage this one. See what he can do. And I'll blow my nose because it's been dripping. Pardon. Well, clearly he hasn't got any troubles with using his weapons either. So that's nice to see. It's always a pleasant thing to encounter, that you make a ship that you really are proud of, that you really feel like, yeah, it kicks ass, and then the AI starts to use it and it's just like doesn't know what to do with it and just messes it all up. It's always nice to see when that isn't the case. Oh dear, he actually blew up a companion. We blow him up in turn, of course, but that's what I mean. That's why I wanted to go through these areas. That is actually the largest ship of the Sentinel faction, the Crescent, as I'm sure you've seen a few times before already in this series. And here we have some Crystalline. Now let's see how well we deal with Crystalline. All by ourselves. No support from anyone, just roaming through. And thus far only leaving devastation in our wake. The fact that we are actually so mobile will also mean that we are much more suited to fight against the crystalline. Because the crystalline rely on plasma cannons very much, and plasma cannons are very hard to aim. The AI will try to predict our movements, but if our speed is that high, if we actually are that nimble, we can completely outmaneuver them. And if we can outmaneuver them, you know what is going to happen, because it's not even requiring effort to keep aiming properly whilst making movements. So yeah, we just run in circles around them, really. Quite literally, in fact. But it seems to be rather calm here. I expected there to be a little bit more resistance, really. Huh. Maybe we've been blowing up them too much already. Maybe we should go over to those crystal plants there in the south. Near where we started off. Because those were able to do a lot of damage against us in the early areas. And now we're very much in the late stages of the game, so who knows. Ooh. You can see that those lances are also quite suited at causing some massive damage to asteroids. In case you almost get stuck and for a moment forget how to move your ship, use lances. We've got a few of them stacked against on top of each other, which basically means that those things are quite powerful. Cause a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. And that of course is also very convenient in case you have something that is in range. Which is not often, but again, for asteroid digging and such, it, it can be convenient. We're so fast. We're so fast and we're so big that means that we have to be very careful with navigating. There's another ship. We'll be oh dear. We'll be crossing through some bees. We should actually have the melee weapons to bust through of some of our enemies as well, but I haven't tried using melee weapons with this ship yet. Or at least relying on them, I should say. We definitely are a moving, flying rave show. We already were, but I mean, come on, this is just getting ridiculous. Just put us in into a disco or something and a club. And nothing would be safe from our lasers, from our laser light shows. Then again, if you would put something with this much power, with this devastation in a club, I don't think anyone would get out alive anymore, but oh well. That's not my problem, I don't go there all that often, so... Remnants of spiky plants. One of their planets, really. That's one of the curious and cool things about the spiky plants as well, because they actually make sort of their own planets. Oops. Here we have the crystal plants. Somewhat curious if they have a ship that would really be able to challenge us. Crystal plants, I haven't really been fighting them all that often. I've been playing them a bit, but I really don't know how big of a challenge they end up being when you actually get to fight them. They are somewhat sturdy, and they have shields, so that is something they have in favor of them. Station. Goodbye, station. Explode nicely. Nothing can stand in the way. But then, that is the nature of the end game. And I think that with that, we'll soon be exiting this episode. And of course, the next episode, it would be the tournament again. And I can already spoil one thing for you all. That is that I've been a freaking idiot. And I've actually removed, or forgot to save, rather, the spinner ship we've been using the last couple of times. Oh dear, we have actually gotten a lot of damage. So that means that I have to remake that one, rebuild it. Perhaps look back on the episode and try to copy it as best I can. Not entirely sure of that yet, but either way, it would be a shame not to have a contender that is like that in the tournament, because I've seen my previous design work that way. That works that way in tournaments, and that one was really, really powerful. It destroyed so many opponents. I don't think that it could stand against this ship simply because it is so reliant on lasers. It would burrow through all those rockets, but yeah. Anything that is not this reliant on lasers would probably get destroyed rather quickly. But anyway, that has been it for this episode. I've been Spirit Balance Holder. This has been the 5th episode of Reassembly, the Helios faction. And next episode will be again the tournament. So expect a lot of designs coming up. Expect great chaos, and we'll be mixing it with the Tinkrel as well. So we'll see how our Tinkrel designs fight against these Helios as well. So that might actually mean that the episode will be a bit longer next time, but I guess we'll see it by then. Anyway, I've been Spirit Balance Holder, and I wish you all a great day.